Welcome to the Untold Story podcast, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum, and tomorrow is National Take Your Dog to Work Day, and actor Dennis Quaid got to co-star with his dog Peaches on a job that Quaid calls an enormous challenge, playing former President Ronal Reagan in the new movie. It comes out in August. It's called simply Reagan, and it will be in theaters on August 30th, and here's a preview.
Welcome to your life.
I was a lifeguard on a river.
There's no turning back.
And I learned how to read the currents. Not just the ones on the surface, but also the ones deep underneath the water. I am about to start the biggest war of this century, and I'm not going to fire a single shot.
You're going to blow up 8 years of diplomacy.
Well, if you think that got their undies in a wad, you just wait.
What did the president know, and when did he know it?
What would you have me do?
I want you to fight!
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Down this wall.
Boy, that's a great trailer. It gives me chills, and I can't wait to see it. Dennis Quaid and his special guest, his dog Peaches, join us now.
Yeah? Hey, Peaches, come on over here. Here you mark. Come on. Jump up. There you go. Good girl.
Oh my gosh.
That's right. Good girl. Yeah.
Wow, that was
She's
impressive.
Kind of, decked out in her, blatant advertising with her, by the way. She's a walking billboard. Right, honey? What do you think? Yeah, what do you think? Yeah, good. All right. Say hello to Martha.
Hi, Peaches.
How are you, Martha?
I'm doing
Thanks for having
great.
me.
Oh, thank you so much for being here, and thanks for joining us for National Bring Your Dog to Work Day. And you got to bring your dog to work on this project.
Yeah, but I work at home so much that she's here. But yeah, Peaches wormed her way into Reagan. She plays the family dog, although that is not completely historically accurate.
And tell me about Peaches. What kind of dog is Peaches? I'm going to guess, but I'm probably going to be wrong.
Peaches is a miniature English bulldog.
Oh.
And this was actually the original size of the English bulldog. You know, we all see the 70, 80-pound guys, but this was the original size, and they bred them up. And from this dog came the pug and the French bulldog.
Well, Peaches is a very good-looking dog.
They actually did fight bulls, by the way.
Really?
Bulldogs did.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. They'd have a ring in a bull's nose, and she gets into a game of tug-of-war, and she won't let go, and they'll outlast you.
Well, I'm sure somewhere Winston Churchill is wishing that that Peaches had been named Winston, because he's a little English bulldog. But she is so cute.
Yeah, she's Winston on a diet.
Winston on a diet, exactly. So with Peaches' permission, I'm going to ask a few questions about the movie, and if Peaches wants to chime in, of course, you know, it's Bring Your Dog to Work Day, so she can answer questions as well. But I do want to talk to you about this role, and I meant it when I said that this trailer gives me chills. I've watched it several times, but these are historic moments. They're moments that that we all grew up watching. And why this role, and how intimidating was it to take this on, Dennis?
Oh, it was very intimidating when I got offered it. I didn't say yes for a couple of months because it, you know, everybody knows Reagan, just like everybody in the world knows Muhammad Ali in a way. And he was also a hero of mine, my favorite president. And I didn't want to do an impersonation, but I went to the Reagan Ranch, and that's where I really felt him. He was a very humble man, actually, up there at the Reagan Ranch. And that's when I decided to take the role.
That's so interesting to me, because, you know, we all think of the Reagan Library, but, you know, not far from there is the Reagan Ranch, where Nancy and Ron Reagan lived. And you say it really is like a moment in time. It's as if they just walked out the door and never came back. Tell everyone about that.
That's exactly what it is. It's not, you know, a public place, and their clothes are still in the closet. And they left it exactly like they left it. His library, his bookshelf, where, you know, that it's filled with books going all the way back to when he was like 9 years old, are there. And the house itself is only about 1,200 square feet. And they had a king-size bed, but it's 2 single beds that are zip-tied together, and still had the little basket with the TV controllers, with an explanation from Nancy explaining how to use the 3 controllers to get the TV to work.
Yeah, I have one of those at my house too.
Yeah, but you could see that he really did all the work there, and you could really feel him in that. Right, Peach?
I think that's
right?
so interesting. And when you think of them there, and spending time together, and the bond between Nancy and Ron Reagan is something that comes through even in this trailer. Talk to me a little bit about what you learned about that relationship.
That was, in fact, their relationship is central to the movie, because I think it was really so important to them. It was a very long love story that they had. They were very close, and she knew him much better than anybody knew him. Maybe his mother knew him as well, like that. But there's something very private also about Reagan, which I found very interesting to get to just as a character, and exploring somebody's personality. A very private place where so many people in my research that knew him said that he was kind of unknowable in a certain sense in that very private place.
It's interesting.
And this is the great communicator that we're talking about.
That's so interesting that you say that. And I know he was a diary keeper. Did you read a lot about those periods? Because I know you deal with the Tear Down This Wall speech and his intense drive to end communism in the world. Tell us about that.
That really started from a very early age, and really officially started, I think, when he became vice president and then president of the Screen Actors Guild, and was dealing with Soviet communist infiltration into our unions. And everybody thought that was maybe a big rumor at the time, or a conspiracy theory. But after the Soviet Union fell, come to find out that it really was true, that they were doing things to take over our unions.
And it's told through the perspective of a KGB agent who was assigned to him, which I think is a fascinating framework. That role is played by Jon Voight. Tell us about that, Dennis.
Yeah. I think it's a very interesting way to tell the story, from the Soviet point of view, in the way that they viewed Reagan. They viewed him as, in a way, as a cowboy, and I think that they respected him, and that also feared him a little bit. Before that, I think we were trying to deal with the Soviets by appeasement. We had the SALT II, and we had all these treaties but it took a cold warrior like Reagan, who they would respect, to win the Cold War, and that's exactly what he did. And I think that's his great achievement that we all owe him a debt of gratitude for.
The Untold Story continues right after this.
In terms of taking him on, his voice is so distinctive. How did you, as an actor, approach that?
Started there. Like I said, I didn't want to do an impersonation of him, and so I just thank God for YouTube and the miles and miles and miles of videotape that are still there, that I go through, as far as his body as well. And his voice was something that I noticed, just like all of us, when he was younger, and I'm playing the younger Reagan for a very long period of time. It's very much higher. It's way up here, until he finally got down to the voice of when he was an older person.
And tell me, there are moments in that trailer that, Nancy is really driving him. What do we learn about that?
Well, they were definitely, a partnership, but not as far as deciding policy or anything like that. It's something that I think Reagan still doesn't get credit for, in a way. They never wanted to give to him. But he really had a plan with the Soviet Union and how to confront them, which was basically to bankrupt them and do it that way. And that's kind of what happened. That was really the thing that worked, and getting them to spend so much money that they wouldn't be able to sustain it.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially when you think about the world we live in now and our competition with China and that kind of threat that we confront at this point. I know that you recently said that you support President Trump in this election. Having gone back and studied Reagan and played him in this film, what's your takeaway in terms of the current electoral political scene?
Well, I think I've stated that in by interviews that I've done that I am supporting Trump this time around. But for a number of reasons. But probably the most is just the weaponization of our judicial system, and I see it as a constitutional issue, and which that's my convictions, and also is, we were talking about Reagan and the way that, it's peace through strength, really, and that there's a lot of bad actors in the world out there, or certainly, our, if you want to call them your enemies, and we have frenemies, and we have that, but, respect is something that goes a long way in the world instead of appeasement. And America sometimes, I think, tries to be everybody's friend, and that's great, but that kind of diplomacy doesn't work with everybody.
You've talked about this too. Just one or two more here, if I may. The division in Hollywood, and it's interesting going back to the period of communism, and what the impact that had on Hollywood, and people being sort of driven out and accused of being communists in some cases. I wonder what Peaches thinks about that. Talk to me about, what it's like for you in Hollywood these days, especially being, outspoken about something like former President Trump.
Well, maybe things were different a couple of years ago. I think a lot of people were either afraid to speak out, or, but I have a lot of Democratic friends, and I find that those that are my friends, we can argue all day long about things and try to see each other's point of view, and not trying to talk them out of anything. But we're still all Americans here, and I do have faith in our country that no matter who wins the election, really, that we're going to be all right. Because there's a third person running in this election too, or a third entity, and that's the American people. And I want them to win. And I think in the end, that's what's going to happen.
Well, we all want our country to win, and to get to a better place where everyone isn't quite so divided. And I want to thank you so much for joining me today and for bringing this movie Reagan to the screens. I also think it's a great way for younger people to get a sense of who he was, and I hope that it draws a lot of younger people.
Yeah, the movie is. It's not a love letter. It's kind of warts and all at times with him, but it's a chance to see, for people who weren't born at that time, to see what our country used to be, and a reminder for all of us who were, what it can be still.
Dennis, I have to ask you, did you hear that Donald Sutherland passed away? And what's your favorite Donald Sutherland role?
Oh.
So many, right?
Well, yeah, Donald Sutherland is actually he's in Bass Reeves, thing that I did last year for Taylor Sheridan.
That's right, yeah.
And he plays the judge in it, and gosh, he was such an incredible actor. I remember him first from The Dirty Dozen. I was like an 11-year-old kid in the theater, and he really stood out. He was just always kind of a mischief maker, and what a great actor in everything he did. I've had the pleasure of meeting him, being with him over several times in my career. Just love the guy. He's just the most open, welcoming person. And his son, Kiefer, and I have been friends over the years, too. And my heart goes out to him and the whole Sutherland family.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
He'll always be with us.
Absolutely.
In my heart.
Well, he has a body of amazing work that he leaves behind, and and family like Kiefer, who's carrying that legacy as well. Dennis Quaid, and you have a son who's an actor too, Jack Quaid. So
yes, I do, Jack. Yeah.
Keeping it in the family.
Doing great guns.
Yeah, no, good for him. That's fantastic. We wish him well and you well, and we thank you so much for being here. Dennis, thank you so much.
Thank you, Martha.
That is the Untold Story podcast for today. I'm Martha McCallum. We'll see you next time. You've been listening to The Untold Story with Martha McCallum. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Make sure to rate and review. For more podcasts, go to foxnewspodcast.com. Listen ad-free with the Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app.